Good morning, everyone. Today we're out in the wood shop here, actually wiring up a customer's classic charge controller. Added some solar modules need to add to the system. So we have a breaker box, some breakers, and a classic. Actually what we have is the MidNite Big Baby breaker box, and we've added a MNSBB-W, I believe it is. Anyways, the short white bus bar in here for DC negative. We have the customer's classic. We have a couple circuit breakers we ordered to go in that MN Big Baby box that we'll show you. Offset nipple, some hardware down here on the bench. So we're going to get you zoomed in on the bench. We're going to assemble this on a scrap piece of plywood here, so that when we get to the customer's site, it's quick and easy. You know, we're saving some time there. Should be a pretty easy plug and play install. So we're going to bring you down. You know, the goal of this video really is to show you how to wire up a classic. So we're going to see if we can get this set up somewhere where it's easy to see and easy to follow along, and we'll see if we can get this wired up. So hang on one second. All right, so we've got our scrap of actually birch plywood left over from, well, maybe you remember the workbench project we did. We're going to go ahead and we're going to use some sheet metal screws. That's what we have. It takes 3 to mount the classic. We're going to go ahead and put one roughly center of the board right near the top to hang the classic on. Like that. Now in this case, we're just going to eyeball this because it's such a narrow piece of plywood. We've got a really straight line. And we're going to put the two down on the bottom. We're going to tighten the top one up. The plastic piece sits really flat right here, so we can tighten it up. The older ones, if I remember right, had a little button in the casting that kept us out away from the board. So, you know, what I would do back then is I would actually drill a hole in the wall to the button to go in. There was a little plastic spacer you were supposed to put up here, but it caused it to set a little crooked. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get our Big Baby box ready, get all of our knockouts knocked out before we mount it, put our offset nipple in here, and keep on going. So what we want to do, we want to get our offset nipple ready, take our insulating bushings and our lock nuts off, and we sort of want to figure out how we want to do this. I kind of want to go for that hole in the classic because it lines up with the terminal block. So we're probably going to do something like that right there. So we want to knock out this knockout, and in this case we want to knock the whole thing out. But if we didn't, what we would do is be more careful with the center one. So these boxes, because they're aluminum, it's easy to get the whole thing to come out. So you would basically, if you look at it really closely, we'll see if you can see that. There's a little connected spot right there between the middle knockout and the ring, and there's a connected spot between the chassis and the ring right there. So if we want to take the center only out, we would want to go right in line with that connected spot to the chassis and kind of push in on it like that, and then down here like this, and rock it. You know, what we'd do is we'd bend it. So we'll see if we can get you zoomed in here. And tap on the screwdriver. And now you'll see, if I get you in there, you'll see I have a gap between the ring and the knockout. I'd actually put my screwdriver in there and just keep bending like that. And then what I would do is I'd come over on the other side, 180 degrees off, in line with the other, you know, bond to the chassis, and just give it a tap like that. And now you've got it so that you can actually rock it back and forth a little bit. And just keep bending it with your screwdriver like this. I like to get my screwdriver right in there like that and just bend it. And now you see I've got about a 1/4 inch of space. Now I can actually go in the other side, do the same thing, and just basically keep rocking it back and forth like that. You'll see I'm just rocking at my fingers on the inside now. And then it's all loose and it comes right out. The thing you want to be really careful of is that you don't like knock over here near where this outer ring isn't supported. So now that we want to take the outer ring out, in our case, we know that, we're going to actually use our T-strippers and we're going to grab it where it's not bonded to the chassis, 90 degrees. So you'll see it's hooked to the chassis here and here. Come back like this and we grab it, just rock it a little bit. And then we can get our linesmans right inside there like that and bend it up. Not linesmen, sorry, our T-strippers. And then pop that out. Now we also know, in our case, we're going to be putting a 3/4 inch knockout on the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Same way as we did the top one. Alright, so now we're going to take our offset nipple and a lock nut. And you'll notice some lock nuts are, both of the ones I have here are kind of dished and they have teeth on them. The teeth want to point towards the metal thing that you're putting the nipple through, and that way they bite in through the paint, help bond it. Some of them have serrations on it, but like I said, both of mine have that dish to it in this case. And you'll notice that's going to sort of dictate our layout of this box to where it is. We'll keep it lined up square here, and we'll go ahead and get a screw in one of the holes. There, we'll get 3 more in, and we're ready to do our electrical work. Alright, we've got our box mounted, we've got our offset nipple in there. Now what we're doing is we're putting on our insulated bushings. And that's basically just to keep the wire from catching on that metal and doing anything kind of weird. Shorting out, I guess is what I meant by that, not necessarily weird. So we've gone ahead and basically kind of mocked up our negative wire here. We're using a piece of number 6. The thing with the Classic is it has common negatives. So we're installing our PV negative wire, or our negative wire on the Classic. The Classic basically has what we call common negatives. That means that it doesn't actually use the negative for current sense or relay switching or anything like that. They're physically connected together right on the circuit board as a single unit. So what that means is that when you bring your PV wire in from your array, you can land that PV negative anywhere in the system that has a negative. You can land it on the shunt, you can land it on this bus bar, you could bring it right into the Classic if you want. So it's a little bit more flexible. So we've gone ahead and we've put our negative in one of these center 2 screws, which on the Classic both center screws are negative. And now we're going to land it here on our terminal block in our big baby box. And the observant eye might have noticed that wire looks like it's been installed once. Learn from me, make sure you put your insulated bushings on before you run your wire. Otherwise you end up taking the wire back out to run the bushings. So now we're going to run our ground wire. We're going to go ahead and trim that off. And we're going to put that down through the offset nipple. We're going to go ahead and get that up in the ground lug in the Classic. we're just going to set that out of the way for now. So now on the PV, we're going to use a number 10 wire because we're using a 30 amp breaker on the PV input and a 60 on the output. One thing I do want to point out on these breakers is they are polarized, and you'll see they have a little plus sign on them. That plus sign does indicate the direction of current flow. What MidNite recommends is that you put the side of the greatest potential into the plus. So if it's on the battery side, the battery would go to the plus, and then the negative side of it would go to the charge controller. If it's on the PV side, the solar module itself would go to the plus, and then the other side would go to the charge controller. You also notice they have these little yellow locks that hold it on the DIN rail. So we're going to release both of those. We're going to put our PV on the left and our battery on the right. Set them on the DIN rail like that. Snap the yellow locks up in, and they're fastened. Now we do have to knock out the cover at some point. You'll see it's going to put the breakers about a ½ inch off the side here. So we're going to go ahead and just set them there for now. We'll come back to the cover in a minute. And now we're ready to run our number 10 wire. Okay, that pretty much takes care of that. We're going to go ahead and plug in our battery temperature sensor to the Classic. And we'll just leave it hanging here on the board for now. And we can hook that up when we get on site. And an interesting fun fact on the MidNite charge controllers and on the Outback charge controllers, at least the FM60 and FM80, I'm not sure about the newer 300 volt model, you can actually short out the pins on your battery temperature sensor plug, and it will turn all the fans on. So it was a bit of code that was put in there to test the fans. So if you want to see if the fans are all working and check them, you could actually grab a phone cord and cut it off, twist it all together, plug it in. You carefully take a flat-bladed screwdriver and put it in there and short those pins out, and the fans would all come on. The other interesting fact is that the controller really only uses 4 of the 6 conductors to watch this. And what it does is, if you could envision them as 1, 2, 3, and 4 straight across, it uses 1 and 2 is out to the thermistor, and 3 and 4 back. So essentially what's happening is out on this end, there's a little temperature sensing resistor that changes resistance with temperature. It's about 10,000 ohms if I remember right. And as it warms up, it goes one way, and as it cools off, it goes the other way. And it's basically reading that. So this cable, has really no voltage or current to speak of on it. So you can use, if you had to extend it for whatever reason, you could use a regular 2-conductor phone cable and a female-to-female plug. The thing to think about, though, is that in a perfect world, you don't want very long battery cables between any of your power electronics and the battery. All of your power electronics, be it, MidNite, Magnum, Outback, Snyder, probably forgetting a lot of brands, they all really kind of count on that battery being there as a filter, an absorber, if you will, for all the switching ripple and everything that these things make. So as you get farther and farther away from that battery, that switching ripple in the devices, be it a charge controller, an inverter, or whatever, that will actually, be more magnified in the product, and it's a little harder on the product. So in a perfect world, we'd like to keep that distance, 5, 6 feet, 8 feet, something like that. Keep it reasonable. If you're having to extend your battery temperature sensor, you may be pushing it too far. So you may want to call the manufacturer of the power electronics and ask them, if they agree with the distance you're going. So we're actually going to just tuck this in behind this nipple, up in through this hole, and then we're just going to plug that right in. Just plugs in like a regular phone cord, just like that, and we're done. This jack here is for internet, if you were going to use that, and then we'll end up putting the display back on it. So let's go ahead and put the display on. I'm going to get you zoomed out so you can see what we're doing. There you go. So the display, the front cover, MNGP as MidNite calls it, plugs in with a 6-conductor phone cable, and it plugs into that top jack right there. Now, you have to be a little careful about where you route this cable, because of the components on the board. I like to stick it right in like that, and then just slide the cover right on, just like that. All right, so that's basically the wiring of the charge controller, how you would wire it. If you were mounting it directly to the E panel with a nipple here, you do your wiring in there and your breakers would be the E panel. But in a general overall 1,000-foot view, this is what you want your charge controller to look like from an electrical standpoint. Whether it's a MidNite, an Outback, a Magnum, Snyder, whoever's brand it is, you really want a breaker, what we would call overcurrent protection disconnect switch on the input and the output side of that device. They want to be properly sized, voltage and current. Unlike AC, DC is a lot different animal when it comes to a breaker, because if you look at an AC, it has a sine wave that goes up and down, and every time that sine wave crosses the center line, there's 0 current and 0 volts. And what that does is, when you open the breaker, 120 times a second, there's 0 current flowing, there's 0 arc, right? It extinguishes the arc. On a DC, it's basically a straight line, it's constant. So when you open that breaker, there's an arc that will form on that breaker as it opens, and the breaker has to be designed to squelch that, to take care of that, not do damage or not catch on fire, actually. So definitely obey the manufacturer's recommendations on voltage. If you've got a 600-volt charge controller, don't use a 300-volt breaker. So yeah, that's about it. We're going to go ahead and tidy this up. We're going to stick our Romex in here for our connection to the breaker box. We're going to stick our PV wire up into here, so that's ready to go. And then when we get to the job site, all we have to do is hang this on the wall, put 3 or 4 screws in it, make a few electrical connections, and we're good to turn this on and get it charging the batteries for the customer. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.